Hey there, YouTube. Welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, the solo tabletop gamer. And in this video, I'm going to give a shout out to some people. And I have to say at the same time, I feel very blessed, feel honored to be able to have the privilege to be able to do this. And what am I talking about? Well, these are PDFs. These aren't like shared PDF files of, hey, here's this cool randomized, table list, or, oh, hey, I found this over here and thought you may like to have it. No, this is different. This is a reflection of blood, sweat, and tears. Hours of dedication and work put into it. What am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about game systems. Game systems, different ones that are already done, published, that you can get today. Others still in the developmental phase. It's really cool if you think about it. And I'm very honored to have the privilege to be able to review these and talk to you guys about them. If it's something you want to hear more about, well, stick around. But first, let me get this out of the way. If you like the video, let me know. Hit that like button. And if you're new here, you just stumbled upon this channel, don't forget to click that subscribe button, followed by the bell icon. When I do upload a video, you're going to get a notification. So, the first one I'm going to talk about, a gentleman reached out to me, and we had a brief conversation over Facebook, and he had sent me this. His name, Ron Hampton. His game, Dragons Beyond, a fantasy medieval war game, campaign rules playable with pencil and paper and miniature figures. It's cool. It's right up my alley, I have to admit. I mean, it's definitely drawn me in. Now, the last couple of weeks have been crazy for me. Even though I've had time to be able to, to do a lot, been working on videos, trying to get caught up. There was this complete dry spell on my channel where there wasn't a whole lot of video activity going on, and I had to make up for that. To make up for you guys. You guys kind of had a drought of Artichoke Dip for a while, so I figured I would flood you with some videos. It's the least I could do. But these have been here, and I've been looking for the time to be able to actually sit down and start reviewing these. Now, they are on PDF, and, well, it is what it is, and I understand it. In today's day and age, it's far more economically, I'm going to say, reasonable, and just more convenient to send somebody a PDF through an email than it is to ship them a book. But with that being said, talking to Ron, pretty soon this will be available for print. I'm looking forward to it because this is really one I want for my library. I can say that. And, well, I like books. I'm sorry, I'm a creature of habit, but it's not going to limit me in any way, shape, or form whatsoever from actually giving you my first impression of this system, what I think, some of the things I noticed, and why you may be interested in it as well. So let's get this thing started. So the first thing that's really jumped out to me about this game system that I liked, and it spoke to me, is this is very based on the basic D&D, what I know from D&D. Now, with that being said, this is not a retro clone by any stretch of the imagination. So if that's what you're thinking, no. You can tell this is somebody who started out with D&D. They had a love for basic D&D and AD&D, and using those influences and gaming, taking that experience away from it, from what they learned from the game mechanics and everything, they came up with a system of their own. Now, it's very, very cool to see this, because it is like, we don't just see this anymore. And what I'm going to say is, well, classes. You have 3 classes to choose from and 4 races. For a lot of people out there that have played more modern, robust, I'm going to say RPG games, to where you have this infinite amount of character classes and races to choose from, so many different options out there. Well, it's refreshing to play a system like this. It may seem very restrictive to you, but the fact is, it makes character creation far more simple. And with that in mind, there's a reason for that. And what gets me into the second thing that I've noticed about this, there has been significant changes to hit die and the health for the characters, making them more robust so they last longer. Here's the thing about the earlier versions of D&D, if you've never got a chance to play them or read through any of the core rule books, even in there they outlined that, well, it's always better to try to avoid a conflict than it is just to go straight into battle. Battle can be extremely unpredictable and fatal, if not equaling an entire total party kill. Those are things to consider, particularly if you had a lot of time invested in your character and they were able to make it up to them higher levels, I'm going to say 6th level and above, and then they get wiped out. It was a bummer. It really was. But, you know, with the more modern games, there has been so many changes to them to where that doesn't occur as much as it used to in the older games. So seeing this, you can understand why you have this simplicity in character creation and the options. Because, well, that was part of the game. That was a consideration. And it taught you something. And what that taught you, there is a difference between role-playing, one being R-O-L-E, the other being R-O-L-L. And I've noticed with a lot more modern game systems today, they tend to be more heavy R-O-L-L playing rather than R-O-L-E, where systems like this really do emphasize that you utilize those type of tactics for your long-term survivability of your character. So when we go into the races and you start going through the races, you start to see these familiar hints, almost nostalgia, if you will. Like dwarves have a 2 in 6 chance to detect secret doors. They have a 1 in 6 chance to force open and stuck or locked doors using a crowbar. They have a 2 in 6 chance to hear noises while listening at a door. All very cool things that, well, we've seen in editions past, brought back to life now in a modern system. And as you go through the character creation process, it's at that point you run across something. It's almost like an old friend you haven't seen in a while, and when you see them, you're just amazed that it hasn't changed that much since the last time you saw them. And that's the saving throw matrix. When you look at it, how it breaks it up into different sections, with death ray, poison, paralyzation, stone being turned to stone, breath weapon, and spells. We've seen this repeated through different game systems that a lot of people enjoy. Swords and Wizardry, Castles and Crusades, to mention a couple. And it's I'm going to say, the base foundation of the gaming for many of us, where it all started. It feels like home. And a lot of the saving throws we see reflected in other RPG systems today just are vague. like an umbrella, umbrellaing everything underneath this very streamlined system to keep the ROLL side of the game going without much emphasis on the ROLE, where these saving throw I need a sip of coffee. Where these saving throw matrices, they do, particularly when you look at them. The saving throw was a monumental thing in the ROLE way of gaming, for the fact that everything boils down to that single dice roll and the way that the DM would explain the final outcome. As I used an example before in another video, it's the difference between your character being nimble enough to get out of the way of the dragon's fire and find a suitable place to hide versus being caught off guard and unable to do anything about it and being consumed within the flames. It also helps divide up them different saving throws. It had more descriptions. It added more, not only, in my opinion, interest to the game, but it also gave you far more, I'm going to say, areas to be able to really accentuate the stories out further. And those near misses, those were the moments where you would hear people talk about, and they would just tell tales of their gaming experiences and what they got away from them. They were monumental. It was something to D&D that when it was changed, and this is just my opinion, it changed things just drastically forever. Starting with 3E, we just saw the 3 basic saves, and it almost seemed alienated, cold, just without a whole lot of description. Everything clumped into one basic saving throw, one number. The idea behind it was to make it far more streamlined, make the game move quicker. That way it would allow for far more cinematic approaches to the game. But in doing so, there was a magic that was lost, a magic to the game itself that was lost. And seeing this here really is cool and rekindles that fire that burns bright in our imaginations again. Now, the next thing it goes into are divisions. Divisions meaning, well, this is where what we call your alignment, right? The difference between your character being lawful or just chaotic, living outside the confines of the written law, or neutral, basically not agreeing with either one, but seeing the world in a balance of the two: good, evil, night, day, summer, winter. Everything is there for a purpose, and everything is there to equal one another out. Neither is good nor bad. They just are. And it explains it and breaks it down for you into detail in there. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going on about the alignments because, well, that could be a video all unto itself if I wanted to, but I think it would be rather dry, long drug out, and The next thing it goes into are the traits. The traits, what we know as attributes. Here, it offers strength, intelligence, cunning, ego, health, and appearance. Interesting. Let's take a look at these. Let's break them down a little bit more. So as it explains to you, the strength and the intelligence is a measure of your physical and mental abilities. Makes sense. Cunning is a measure of intuitive wisdom or slyness. It is akin to a natural wit or instincts of certain animals. For example, the cunning of a snake as compared to the inherent gentleness of a dove. I like that. It's more descriptive rather than clumping it all together in between the two of intelligence and wisdom. Ego is the measure of loyalty and self interest. It influences how well a player can give or take orders, the reaction to a real or perceived insult, and the likelihood that the player will risk his life for his liege. Religious order, guild, or fellowship. For hirelings, the referee should track ego as a loyalty value. This can be influenced through time and boons as seen below. Wow. He put a lot of, I'm going to say, work into this to actually making the attributes to this game, making it original. And last but not least, we go into health. This measures how well a person stands up under the strain of events, such as being turned to stone or transformed into a toad, as well as the ability to withstand physical punishment and fatigue. A character's health influences a character's hit points. When a character is created, and every time the character achieves a change in level, the player will roll and re-roll hit points. If the character has below average health, his total hit points are adjusted downward. However, a player will earn at least 1 pip per dice throw. In cases of above average health, the character may earn at least 3 or 4 pips per dice thrown. It's interesting. It's a different way on health rather than just one constant number of HP. I guess I should say what we have come to expect from most RPG games and how they measure health. He breaks it up a little bit more in an interesting way here, to be honest with you. And the fact that this game is heavily influenced and its intent is to be played on the tabletop with miniatures. And even though it's a role-playing game, there is heavy emphasis on miniatures and terrain that go into it. So it's bridging that gap between miniature games to where the miniature gamer, war gamer who loves that, and people who love RPGs like myself. This is bridged in between the two, giving you the best of both worlds. This is very interesting. I like this. It is a really, really unique system. So moving on from there, it goes into obviously the currency systems, gold pieces, stuff like that, to collect, how you collect wealth and use it to be able to purchase things throughout the fantasy world as you move along. It goes into explaining languages, which I find familiar to the older AD&D systems. Characters having an intelligence of an 11 or above may learn additional languages. It even goes into giving a chart and breaking it down. The difference between common tongue and more different elaborate languages specific to particular race. Equipment and encumbrance. All the things we'd expect to see out of an RPG game and what they explain to you. But here is one that's unique to, I'm not going to say just this system, but we've seen it in other systems before. That is inheritance. If a character dies in play, his inheritance, wealth, titles, land, and possessions will pass as soon as the body is put to rest, and an heir arrives. Oftentimes, there are no remains to be settled, but if there are, then funeral expenses consume 10% of the inheritance. Talk about adding reality into your game. In many fantasy settings, it goes into explaining how it is customary for the eldest son to be able to presume the father's title and or status in life. And this is reflected throughout there, giving the premise, which is cool. If you think about this, this is a very cool way to do this. When you think about most RPG games, where once your character dies, that's it. What happens to the items? I mean, pretty much they're all looted by the other party members. Whatever they want is sold off and or kept, and a new character comes in. Now, the whole inheritance thing is cool because those weapons and possessions are held over, which can prove to be a boon to a new character, particularly if they are very powerful weapons and or magical artifacts that the character inherits at first level, giving them an extreme cutting edge to those gaming sessions. It's cool. I like this. I actually do like this. It breaks up, going into what you would expect to see, experience points, how experience points allow progression to higher levels of ability. And it says there are several different ways to earn experience points, whether it be through combat, can be through treasure. So each character is awarded 1 experience per gold piece value of treasure in this share. Reminds me of like what we've seen in older versions of D&D, and even a game system I just recently talked about, 5 Torches Deep, where they measure your experience off of the treasure gained and not just combat alone. Daring. So very cool. Going back to ROLE playing and not just ROLL. How daring are your characters? Were they willing to make that sacrifice and go out for life and limb, sacrificing themselves to save the party? And in the very end, they pulled it off. They were successful. And in doing so, that gained them experience for the decisions and choices that they did. Using magic, training. What if your character is captured? And whether they're timed that they're captured, depending on how they do it, negotiate the release, or they're able to escape through heroic story events. Either way, experience is gained. And of course, saving throws, like I explained earlier. This is a very, very good game system. And last but not least, all the things I was talking about, being clever. Once again, going back to something we have seen lost in modern game systems that does not seem to really, and I'm not going to say it's not relevant, because that is absolutely preposterous. Absolutely it is. Every game table is different. But it's just something, if you see, there's a very strong emphasis today on tabletop role-playing games on the ROLL side of it, not much on the ROLE side of things. But in here, you are awarded experience for being clever, thinking outside the box, how to get around some of these perilous events. That is cool. That is gaming. It's the old style type of gaming that we grew up with. You could tell it was written by somebody in my age bracket, or perhaps a little bit older, because this is the way the RPG systems were then. The combat section of this is very robust. It goes very into depth about different types of combat. Unlike a lot of RPG systems we see today, where you just have a generic overview of combat, how the combat mechanic works, and it pretty much blankets everything from the game system on out. This is very unique unto itself, and it even gives you a descending armor class matrix to be used. Oh yes, yes. Just like the games of old, this isn't like a modern D20 system where you have an ascending AC system. This is a descending AC system, which, I'll be honest with you, they're simple. they are not that complex to think about. And as I've explained the simple formula in a few videos back, if you're struggling with these game systems and you want to know a simple way to be able to calculate this, just think of it this way. AC9 would be like AC10 if you're playing 5E or any other edition from 3E on up. If you're playing an older edition where it has descending AC classes, think of it this way. Take the number value it gives you. Let's say, for example, you have an AC of 5. Subtract 5 from 10. You get 5, right? Well, we're going on a range here of 20. So you have to remember, whatever that value is, subtracting it from 10. We got an AC 5. Subtract 5 from 10. You come to 5. Add another 10 to it. 15. There you go. You have your value. It's a very simple system once you get used to it. Once you get used to it, it becomes just a second nature and just as easy as any D20 system out there. It's just a different way of looking at it. It's just something that hasn't been used so long. It's alien to a lot of people. A lot of people feel as if it's extremely overcomplicated. And there's nothing far from the truth. It's just simple, basic mathematics. In one version of the game, subtraction is the game. And in the other one, addition is the game. Basically, folks, that's what separates the two. And if you think about it, it's pretty silly to sit and argue over two different editions of a game system just for that. Really, you're arguing over basic mathematics. Just saying, there's more to it than that. I'm not going to downplay it, but I'm talking about the AC systems, the difference between the ascending to the descending. Now, this is very cool, particularly what's going to come into the matrices for miniatures, and it divides us into individual fires with missiles, and then it goes to man-to-man melee tables. It goes so far into depth about combat that it goes into melee between horsemen and footmen, all the way to melee between horsemen and horsemen. It even goes far more into depth about missiles meaning your bows, your crossbows, anything that can be lunged through the air at an opponent, the rate of fires. Armor classes, of course, you have to have armor, right? And the cool thing is it gives you a conversion table here explaining the difference between the armor classes. So if you have come from playing earlier editions of any D&D to this edition, you're not going to feel isolated. It's going to break these down for you. Good example, splint and shield armor, AC 3. Well, if you're playing in the ascending D20 system, you're going to have an AC 17. So it's very cool that this is done. It's bridging that gap. This is offering a rich ground for people of all different editions, ages, and just different likes of RPG games to be able to experience a very rich old school feel with a very unique system. I like this. This is bridging a lot of gaps between a lot of different styles of play, particularly for me. I'm geeking out right now. Why? This is miniatures. Okay, goes into shields, recovery option. So at the end of combat, all lost hit points may be recovered naturally at a rate of 1 or 2 per day for lower level characters and monsters. Yes, monsters. This is all taken into consideration. This is good stuff right here. It really is. Those who start with more hit points recover at a faster rate, left to the referee's discretion. However, it should not be easy to recover if the character or monster was near death. I agree with that 100%. In any case, a month of rest is always sufficient to restore all lost hit points. Hey, I love it. The other thing I like about this too is how it talks about the monsters. So not only from an RPG standpoint of view, but also from a miniature standpoint of view, particularly if you decide to sit down and play this and one or more of the players at the table, if you're playing in a group setting, want to actually run monsters. They want to be the adversaries of the storyline, then it gives them that option too. This is the way I'm perceiving it. And also an RPG element, if you don't kill all of the monsters encounters that you have, answering them questions when they run off the battlefield and they leave wounded, what happened to them, how do they recover, and how do they come back at a later time in the storyline, only to once again play your characters. Very good stuff. I like this. So it even goes over death, which we all understand death in RPGs and what that means. It says any character, non-real person or monster who reaches 0 hit points, well, is dead. The only way to restore the character or monster is through the use of the Raise Dead spell. And it says see below, so you can learn more about the Raise Dead spell and what it all entails, which is always good to know when it comes to spells. Let me tell you what, depending on which system you're playing in. And then death optional. When a character reaches 0 hit points or below, he must make a special saving throw against his health trait. Oh man, freaking love it. Freaking love it. A roll equal to or less than the character's health score means the character has been knocked unconscious or fainted due to the loss of blood. If the character is not restored to 1 or more hit points within a day, he slips into a coma. The character must make daily saving throws until either he reaches 1 hit point through natural or magical healing, or he fails his saving throw and dies. For non-real players and monsters, the referee may decide to also apply this rule, either rolling a health trait or then the saving throw, or else using 11 as the health trait score. This is a cool, and it's an optional rule they put in here for death, but this is cool. This is really good stuff. And like I said, when I first looked at this PDF, when he sent it to me, I'm like, man, can you get this in a printed version? Because what I'm seeing here is really good. And he is currently working on that from what he has told me. And he said he would let me know when the printed version of this will be ready. Okay, so further, the combat section in this is extremely robust. So it goes into melee's attack from the rear, melee attacks from the flank, shields are optional, helms, setting a flame, if within reach of flammable materials, tapestry, wood piles, sails, and equipped with an open flame, a combatant may attempt to set a fire by rolling 2d6 and achieving a roll of 10 or better. A fighting man of 4th level hero needs a 9 or better. So it's breaking it up into this matrix, what each number is that they have to get on 2d6 in order to be successful at, well, burning your shit down. Come on, even you got to admit, that's pretty freaking cool. Improvised weapons, unarmed combat, up horsing a rider. This guy just went over the freaking top thinking about these different aspects of combat. And you can see when you add miniatures into this, and now you're adding more, I'm not going to say emphasis because that's the wrong word, but you're adding more elements of actual miniature skirmish into this, where you're going to be representing this on your table like I do, with 3D terrain and other elements added into it. This system is just it. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys out there. Some people may be upset when I say this that are playing 5e right now, but this right here, this smokes 5e. I mean, when it comes to combat and and some of you may be saying, no, it can't. No, really, seriously, it does. I mean, this is good. I have not seen an RPG system in a while that really emphasizes so much and so much description into this. This is good, even for the solitaire player. What they give you here is, I mean, oh my God, this guy, he's a magician, if you ask me. Let me tell you something at this stage of the video. You may be sitting here thinking to yourself, like, this guy's paying him or something. No. This guy's already making money off of this. He's already put it out on RPG Drive-Thru, and he sent me a copy for free, which I'm humbled for. I'm just checking it over. He asked me, have you ever heard of this? And I said, no. But holy dude, let me tell you what. I mean, you really got my attention. Let me just put it to you that way. Okay, so it's going to go more into mounted charge, gunpowder weapons. So if you want to add those into your game, pushback is optional. If you're not familiar with that, pushback being a combatant fighting at the edge of a ship deck, or a combatant might be forced to fall into a bottomless pit, a combatant forced rearward into a space where a friendly archer might either strike the archer within his weapon or else preventing the archer from shooting. So this is an optional rule that I use even in my games, and it's cool. I mean, what happens when you strike an opponent? You know what I mean? I mean, you've taken them down to 1 hit point with 1 freaking attack. I mean, I don't care who you are. That's going to plant you on your ass. Period. I mean, even a fantasy game. How can you be like, the character just like, no, it's, this is what that is. Fighting withdrawal goes into retreat, surrendering, taking prisoners, subduing opponents, helpless opponents, and then it has the final words on melee and combat. Very robust system, very robust. A lot of thought went into this. It's very cool. It even goes into jousting. If you want to add those elements into your RPG game, I mean, this is something I'm going to actually take a very close look at, and could even be something if I decide to choose to add into the system I'm getting ready to just start and kick off, because it is Friday. It is game day. Kingdoms of Calamar. Very, very cool. Man. Point of aim, defenses, injuries, winning the joust. He even has matrices that go into this. I mean, this is a very well thought out system. Heroic challenges. There is so much here to unpack. It's crazy. I mean, we're going into 38 minutes of this video, and I'm not even a quarter of a way through this PDF yet. It goes into extremely deep explanations of armors, different armors. I wish I could show you guys this, but I don't. I can't do the screen on screen thing. And, well, be honest with you, it's going to be awkward. I got my phone set up here I'm recording this on, and I can only explain to you what I'm looking at. Maybe as things get better, we'll see what I can do, but you just have to take my word for it right now. But even illustrations showing close-ups of the different kind of armors to give you a better description of the different armors. This is just great. I mean, a lot went into this. Not only the illustrations, the rules, Even the equipment, you get excellent descriptions on the equipment. Wow, man. Wow, I'm blown away. I really am. I am absolutely just blown away with what I see here. Like I said, it's been last couple of weeks have been, even though I've had time, they've been crazy. A lot more, I think, work goes into videos than what a lot of people think they do, particularly when you get to the editing part of it. That's where, well, the vast majority of your time is spent. So all of that takes time, but man, encumbrance. He explains he goes into great detail about all of this. Let's take a look at spellcasting. So it says many aspects of spellcasting are the same for both magic users and clerics. The term caster applies when this is true. The caster must be able to gesture and use his voice to cast a spell. A caster aboard a ship in rough seas or in a storm gale cannot gesture freely, so no spells may be cast under those conditions. Huh. Wow. I mean, yeah. Hey. A magic user must remain stationary to cast a spell. Clerics need not. Traditionally, spells vary in complexity and casting time. At a minimum, the caster must utter a phrase while pointing at the place where the magic will manifest. Example, a target. The target must be within the caster's line of sight and within range. And it says see below. And it goes into the matrix to give you further detail of that. So each caster may only cast one spell per combat round. This is done during the artillery segment. Some spells require a caster to maintain concentration. For these spells to operate properly, the caster must retain stationary. A caster aboard ships in rough seas, we already know about that. They cannot maintain their concentration. A caster who is successfully attacked, he is wounded or loses hit points, well, he can't cast. This is really good. Goes into the ranges. Wow, man. Into the spell descriptions. And some of these are very, very obviously familiar to what we've seen. So if you played, like I said, many of them editions of that game that have it starts with a D, ends with a D, and there's an and in between the two words, you know what I'm talking about, you're going to see that a lot of these spells are going to be very familiar to, for the fact that it did outline in the beginning that this does conform with the OGL licensing. More spells, more spells. I mean, I am blown away at all the information that is packed in here. This is just amazing. I cannot wait till this goes to print. I really can't. I'm going to love having this book. Because like I said, I'm not... When it comes to PDFs, obviously I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm looking at the PDF and I'm reading this and I'm doing that. But I prefer books so much more. I prefer paper. I really do. Let's move on and see what some other areas we have here to explore, because we're coming up on 43 minutes of this video and I barely scratched the surface of it. I'm just talking about some of the more, I'm going to say common aspects of this RPG system to relate to others out there that we are familiar with. So it's, okay, non-real players, retainers, domain play, strongholds, monsters and prizes. Wow. Monster descriptions, dragons, elementals, lycanthropes, men, sea monsters. It's got a whole entire section on prizes, troves and guards, taxes, prize matrices, maps, gems and jewelry, special items, auctions. Holy crap. Magical items tables, magical swords, magical armors, miscellaneous weapons, potions, scrolls, rings, wands, staves, and on and on. Magical optional swords, combat abilities, magical abilities. That's interesting. underworld adventures and guidelines for the referee. Holy cow. And it just keeps going on. It just keeps giving you more and more information. Chapter 18, thievery, optional, thieving skills, poisoned weapons, anti-clerics. Holy cow. Aerial combat. And when I thought it couldn't get any further into depth about combat, it's got a whole section for aerial combat. Okay, we get into 21, chance cards. Oh my God. Oh boy. Guys, this is a deal breaker right here. This is it. This is where I can tell you right now, this game is going to stand out against a lot of RPGs out there, and it's going to freaking bury them. It's just going to freaking bury them. Just what I see right here in the table of contents. Random dungeon generator, hex generation procedures. We got to check this out. We got to go in there. We just have to look. I know this video is getting rather long, but oh man. So the following procedure is suitable for solo play. Guys, this dude's thought of everything in this game system. And also for preparing a dungeon or running one on the spur of the moment for multiple participants. The first level of the dungeon is the lair of some monster rolled at random from the wilderness encounter tables, along with associated treasure from the prize matrix. This or these monsters should be encountered in the chambers closest to the entrance. Beyond the first level, and for all wandering monsters, the underworld encounter tables are used. The upper works could be nothing more than a tomb entrance, an abandoned temple, or a deserted fortification. The upper works always begin with a stairway or trapdoor leading down to a single room on the first level of the underworld. When graphing it, is best to place the room in the center of the graph paper. I agree. Use tables 1A, 1B, and 1C, and 1D to generate the first room. After the first room is generated, move on to table 2A in conjunction with table 2B to build the passages, leadways, and from the entry room. Holy crap, man. All right. So we're going to need a dice roll of a 7. Let's give this a roll, a quick, let's try it. What are we waiting for? Holy crap. Okay, so the first room, I rolled an 8, ignoring an 8, and ignoring a 1. Oh, come on now. We got a 6. A square, 20 feet by 30 feet. Dice roll of a 12. Oh, I see there. I win. Gotcha. Okay. But anyways, for the sake of this video, it's going to be a little bit to get used to these tables. Okay, room, chamber, or cavern. Number of exits. Roll a d6. 2. 600 square feet room area. Number of exits. There's 2 exits out of this room. And looking at my first roll, it says that this was a square 20 foot by 20 foot room that contains the room area. Well, that's contradicting itself because it's quite larger. So we're going to go with 20 foot by 20 foot. It has 2 exits leading out of this room. Okay, an exit has a 4 in 6 chance of being a door. Otherwise, it's open arc area leading to a passage. Okay, well, let's roll a d12. Let's see what we got there. We already have an idea of what's going on. 3 to 5 on the left wall. This is good. This is actually pretty good. Okay, an exit on the same... Man. All right, I want to see the hex crawl now. Let's go into the... Because I am coming up on almost an hour for this video currently. But this is good. This is really good. I am blown away by just the amount of thought, time, and everything else that was put into this. This guy has done a magnificent job. I'm looking for... There it is, hex generation procedure. Let's take a look at that. Okay, for solo play or when an adventure crosses over into truly uncharted territory, the procedure below can be used to generate terrain for each 6-mile hex. Very cool. The referee should keep these common sense guidelines in mind. Water flows from higher elevation to lower elevation. Makes sense, yeah. I mean, unless water doesn't flow uphill unless you got a pump. Deserts are usually found on the side of a mountain range that is sheltered from the prevailing winds, okay? If 2 catch basins or ponds are in adjacent hexes, it may make sense to consolidate them into a lake. Yeah, I see what he's getting at. It's just using a little bit of common sense when you set up your hex grids. So the overall topography is actually going to make sense. It's just not going to make no sense where you have an Arctic wasteland next to this dry, arid desert that's next to a jungle that's next to an Arctic wasteland. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, this hex generation system does not have the means to generate coastal areas where shallows, peninsulas, islands, cliffs, coves, and all of that. Okay. Procedure. To generate the terrain for an unexplored hex in the direction of travel, use these steps. Match the type of terrain for the hex in which the travelers are located with the correct row in the first column. Generate a random number using a 1D100. Read across the columns to the right until you find the range that matches the generated number. The column heading directly above is most likely the type of terrain found in the unexplored hex. Some types of terrain do not, but with other ones, okay, it's a typo, no problem, that happens. Cross-reference the newly generated terrain type with the second table below. If the terrain is valid, roll again. Wow. So it breaks it up into your unexplored current hex type, rolling the percentile dice, which would be 29, which here is going to come out to a mountainous region. Or I can put it, if I already knew, let's say it was a desert, rolling that, it would come up as a desert. But if I had just no conception of what was there whatsoever, at that point, it would fall into a mountainous area. This is cool. Okay, valid terrain, unexplored hex. And then it goes even, gives you some more tables to go. Most of the data in table 23B could be discerned from tables 23A above, but for the sake of clarity, this second table has been provided. Okay, an additional column is included in table 23B for rivers. If a river is indicated by the secondary roll, see immediately below, and is invalid according to this chart, there is no river present. The same is true for any other body of water. Okay, I see what they're saying. Okay, that makes, wow. A lot went into that. A lot went into that. So it's pretty simple. It's just a cross-referenced chart here. So an example, if you had a desert, is it a clear? Yeah. Is there a river? No. Is it a desert? Yeah. Are there woods? No. Is there swamp? No. Is there a mountain? Well, sure. Yeah. Why couldn't there be? And the same holds true for the woods. So it goes through, could there be a clearing in the woods? Yes. Could there be a river in the woods? Yes. Could there be a desert in the woods? No. Could there be woods in woods? I certainly hope so. And that's yes. Could there be a swamp in woods? Yeah. Being a Michigan boy, I can tell you. Oh yeah. Could there be a mountain in woods? Sure, absolutely. You see forested areas and all that surround the base of mountains all the freaking time. So additional terrain features, it goes into waterways, rich in game and forage, alternately cultivated or used for pastures, catch basins or ponds, outposts. Wow. And then, of course, the last part of the book here goes into playing without polyhedrals. If the odds are even chances or a 1 and 2, use an odd numbered dice roll for a 1 and an even numbered for 2. Alternately use playing cards. If a card is drawn is from a red suit, the result is 1. If it's from a black suit, it could be 2. A coin toss is also an option. Okay, so what they're referring to and going into is here are if you wanted to use this to figure out them odds like we've seen before, like roll a 1d5 and you're thinking I don't have a 1d5, and how to do them conversions. It's showing you different ways that you could do that here. It says if the odds are 1 in 20 or requires a d20, draw a card as with times in 10 above. Turn over a second card. If the second card is the same color as the suit of the first card, the result of the first card stands. So it's just giving you a different way. Basically what it's breaking it down to is saying, hey, if you don't have a polyhedral dice set, there's a different way you can use this game playing it, and this is how you can do it with playing cards and tossing a coin if you have to. That's cool. He's thought of everything. He even put that in there. And then, of course, in the back, he goes into the biography of it and his resources, where he had resourced a lot of his material. Gary Gygax and Jeff Perrin from the Chainmail Rules for Medieval Miniatures, 2nd edition. So this is going way, way, way back. We're going way back to the beginnings. And he has just a whole list of here. Of course, I'm seeing Gary Gygax come up more than once. Book 1 of Men and Magic, Book 2 of Monsters and Treasures, Book 3 of the Underworld and Wilderness Adventures. Just amazing. So what this is, it's very cool. And I have to admit, I've heard about it, but I never was able to get my hands on a copy of it. Was the original Chainmail. And for those of you that are unaware of what I'm talking about, those of you who are, you know what I'm talking about. So when D&D first came out, it was very confusing to a lot of people because the rule sets were written from the viewpoint that you had already owned chainmail or very familiar with chainmail, and it was the rules referencing from my understanding of it. Like I said, I don't own a copy of chainmail, so I can't tell you. And I'm sure maybe this day and age you could get a reprint of it, but at this point, looking at this, I mean, he has done a fantastic job at reaching way back there to chainmail, bringing that forward and modernizing the game. Not only that, but the old school feel to it, and just the different, I'm going to say, bridges you can take from multiple different RPG systems and use this. you can, and it really emphasizes there, like I said, when it comes to role playing, it's putting the ROLE back into role playing and not so heavy on the ROLL aspect of it, which is, it's good. It's good because this is old school gaming here. This is the way gaming was originally intended. And, you know, the day and age we see today, everything is just fast paced, move, go, 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 with the emphasis on everybody just wants to be rolling dice all the time. So, man, this is good. This is really good. I will leave a link if you guys want to check this out for yourselves. And, you know, I'm not pressuring anybody in any way, shape, or form to purchase this or not. It's entirely up to you. I can tell you, for me personally, I am waiting now. I'm going to be sitting on pins and needles until he tells me this thing is ready for a printed version of it, and I'm going to be picking it up because this is just absolutely freaking over the top. I mean, even goes into solo rules, how you can take this. And so for those of you out there, you know, that are looking for a true, I'm going to say, old school play style RPG game that's just not buried in, if you look out there today, the vast sea of what are just basically reprints from one game system to the next, which is going to be the BEC, it's easier just to say the BECMEs, which is the original version of D&D here, like this, that have been just kind of so overdone at this point that there's just so many of them out there. It's just kind of like, you know, pick whichever cover looks flashy to you and fucking grab that one, because it's gonna be the same game system from one to the other. This is different. This stands out unto itself. I mean, this is really reaching further back into the roots of where D&D actually came from, its roots of D&D, and bringing this back to life. But not only that, there are so many different bridges that are crossed here. I mean, holy crap. This guy, he's done a phenomenal job. He has done a phenomenal job. And the one thing I can say, looking at this title, and I would have to get clarification from him, it says at the bottom 3-volume set. So I don't know if this is broken up into 3 different volumes. You know, at that point, everything we see here in the table of contents, because I mean, the table of contents is extensive. Like I said, if you look at, and I didn't even get into NPCs. I didn't even get into the non-real players in this, in which you have, you know, the retainers and the retainers' loyalties and upper level hirelings and monsters and mercenaries and everything else they put into there, or domain play. I didn't really talk about that either. And they get more into the fighting men, serving a lord, departing employment, the barony, clerics, magic users, guilds, fellowships, loners, special agents. I mean, angry villages, the business of magic, magic research, wizards and advancement, optional rules. And it goes on. Investments, mass battles, monster menagerie and optionals, and additional domain play considerations. Freak. Into strongholds. I didn't even get into that. I mean, literally, what I was talking about and explaining here was an hour or so far. So that's why I said I don't know if this is all 3 volumes compiled into one, or if this is just one volume of 3. I'll have to get more clarification on that and get you guys some more information on that as I learn it. But holy crap, I am blown away. I mean, this is legitimate, and I am not going to edit this video in any way, shape, or form. Everything you see my reactions and everything are real. They're legitimate. This is real. This is me, real artichoke, going through this. And wow. That's all I have to say is wow. I am absolutely, absolutely freaking blown away. I mean, this is going to rank up there as one of my more very played games. I can tell you that by looking at this already. I am just chomping at the bit for the printed version of it. And, Rod Hampton, I can tell you out there, 2 thumbs up, man. I mean, you did one hell of a job. One hell of a job. I mean, you have touched on so many fronts of different gamers here and offered them a game system that is just so adaptable, from old school players to more modern players to your miniature diehard war gamers. I mean, holy crap. And then you included solo players too. That's one of the things I've noticed about some RPG systems that I think they're lacking. They're missing out on, and they don't even realize it. And some of them are just straight up snobby about it. The new game system that's coming out is called Dragon Slayer. I reached out to the guy and I talked to him, and I said, "Hey man, this is what I do. Where can I buy a print from you so I can see this?" Didn't even want to work with me. Didn't even consideration. Just pretty much blew me off. And I was like, all right, man, well, it is what it is. Just remember, when the game comes out, don't try to contact me later on down the road and be like, oh, hey, well, it's for sale over here. I mean, no, sorry, dude. Sorry. I mean, if you're going to hold your nose that high up in the air because you don't feel as if the solo players are a viable part of just the gaming genre, but at that point, the overall amount of sales that go into gaming sales every single year, then you're a fool. You are an absolute fool. And guys like Ron Hampton here understand that and have put that out there and have reached out to them gamers, and he's drawing them into his game system and inviting them in. And I have to tell you, man, I mean, you guys hear me talk about Free League all the time because of this, because Free League doesn't, they don't isolate solitaire players. They include solitaire players into the game systems and welcome them. And this one, Dragons Beyond, is no different. It is just absolutely amazing. Rod, thank you so much for sending me this. This has put a permanent smile on my face. I mean, this is excellent. 2 thumbs up from me. I mean, it has really, really impressed me. And it has, I can tell you, exceeded all of my expectations that I could possibly imagine that you put into this. It's just blown me away. It has just absolutely blown me away. Like I said, guys, I'll leave a link. I'll let you guys make your own decisions and go over there and check it out and see what you think. I'm giving you my perspective from what I have right here, and damn. Alls I can say, when it comes to games like this is a diamond in the rough. I mean, it really is. And the fact, like I said, this guy has just done his homework and reached out to so many different thoughts of gaming out there in different games and brought them all together underneath one umbrella to be just. And even that, I mean, not only that, the guy even took the time to think about, hey, if you don't have a polyhedral dice set, don't sweat it. You can use a set of deck of playing cards and some coins and you can still play it. Come on! I mean, come on! I don't care who you are. Even if you're a diehard 5e player out there, you're going to be hard-pressed to find that anywhere in any of their core rule books, aren't you? Yeah. But, all right, my friends. with that being said, the coffee's getting cold. I'm going to have to refresh it. My God, Rod. Holy crap. Holy crap. After seeing this, man, this is up there. This is up there. Just knocked out of the park. I mean, I say that with Free League stuff, but Rod Hampton, you have knocked this one out of the park, man. All right, my friends. As I say at the end of every single one of my videos, these are my thoughts and not yours. I hope you enjoyed the video. And with that being said, this is Artichoke Dip. Signing off.